and go. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. Welcome you to the Village of Ruidoso workshop meeting, 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning. And we'll go ahead and stand with me, if you would, please, and we'll have a moment of silence, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the state flag. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag, the state of New Mexico, and see a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. United cultures. All right, everybody. Back in Zoom land, phone land, and we're glad that you're here. We made it through the 4th of July. I think everybody knows that attendance was way down. We had the Monday with the Mayor show yesterday that I think went real well, and I'm going to be talking to most of the counselors about coming on and doing some things with us. But most of what I got from the village businesses is that they were busy. I can tell you the track was way down. We're holding our breath for the governor's next announcement to see what happens. I'll just let you know that we did have another case, maybe 2 yesterday, and we'll have confirmation on all those a little bit later today. But ma'am, if you'll have a roll call for me, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Jackson.
Here.
Councilor Cornelius.
Here.
Councilor Salas.
Here.
Councilor Letterman. Here. Councilor Eby.
Here.
Okay.
And Mayor, excuse me, Councilor Conklin, of course, did inform us that he would not be present.
Okay. Councilor Coughlin is absent with leave, I guess. So here joining me in the council chambers this morning is Councilor Letterman, Village Manager Tim Dodge, Village Clerk Irma Devine, and then we have Jeffrey lurking about with our IT tech support, who does a great job. In the manager's office, we have Councilor Jackson, Councilor Cornelius, Councilor Eby, Deputy Manager Ron Santa, Village Attorney Zach Cook, and then via Zoom, we have a whole host of department directors, and I didn't see where Mayor Pro Tem, where are you at?
I'm on the phone.
You're on the phone. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Oh, I see it. You're in yellow. Happy fellow. So we're all here and we're not there, but we're all here. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. I know you folks got things to do. So the item number 1 is discussion on adoption of resolution 2020-24, a resolution authorizing disposal of surplus property by the village council. And on that one, we have, is John Commander available?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Commander, it's your, just tell us what you wanted to tell us about this.
And this is a list of surplus and obsolete equipment that each department director has turned into me. We will be selling all this on a website called Public Surplus. It is an auction website, and we pay no fees. The buyer pays all fees.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about this? This has been pretty standard and I think beneficial to the village.
One question, Mayor, because I forgot. How long do the items stay on the website until they're all sold, I'm assuming, but what's the average on that before we can deem them as, surplus and just get rid of them?
It is an auction, the website. They'll be listed usually 10 to 14 days. And it's sold to the highest bidder.
I guess what I'm getting at, it seems like I've seen a couple of vehicles behind Parks and Rec that have been on the auction before, and they're just taking up space is the only thing. And I may be wrong. Those other ones may have sold, but I'm just wondering if we have any items like that we hold on for the next year's auction or something. I don't know.
I wouldn't be able to answer that question. I'm sorry. We will selling off these.
Counselor, what we can do is actually, items like that, what we need to do is assess that and then list them as salvage metal and group them together. Oftentimes salvage companies will come in and take them. That's a strategy that I've used before. So we can actually do that at any time and we don't have to wait. So what we can do is go through the list, and if there's items that haven't sold previously, we can, list them as salvage metal and take that type of an approach.
And that would be good. I just didn't know how long we hung on to them. So, but I like that idea.
Okay. So, does that look like it's going to be on a consent item?
Yes.
Okay, consent item. Ms. Arma. Item number 2, discussion on adoption of resolution 2020-25, a resolution amending ordinance 2014-06, a Village of Ruidoso Personnel Policy, Chapter 4, Positions and Pay, Section 6, Callback. And so this one is Judy. You're up, Judy Starkovich.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This proposed change to the personnel policy is just a cleanup. In practice, when we took over payroll, most of the hours that were on callback, the departments were paying them at time and a half, which was contrary to personnel policy. The policy had stated that only the first 2 hours were at a premium rate, and then the remaining hours of callback premium would be based on their FLSA rate, whether they were over 40 hours in a work week or if they were under, the time would be paid at either a half time, at regular pay or time and a half. So this proposal is just to put in practice what we're actually seeing on the payroll. The department directors, when a time is submitted, are paying callback at time and a half. So this was just to clear up, to put into practice what we were actually paying.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? We're all aware that we moved it from human resources to the financial department for payroll. Does anybody have any other questions, comments? Okay, do you guys want to? Sergeant?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, do we have any particulars on whether we'd have it on consent items or regular? Consent.
I would say consent.
Okay, is that good with everybody? Consent? I hear no. I'm sorry, Joe?
Consent.
Okay, consent. All right, Ms. Devine. Item number 3 is adoption. Whoops. Hit the button too fast here. Discussion on adoption of resolution 2020-26, a resolution of financial support and funding commitment to the Ruidoso Main Street Association for fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $35,000. And Samantha?
Mayor, can we handle these next 2 together because they go together?
Sure. Well, we want them to be separate, or? They'll still be separate, but yeah.
They're kind of the same discussion.
Okay.
The resolution just supports item number 4.
Okay.
Yes, good morning, Mayor. The resolution is just a section of the MOU that is between the state Main Street and the RMA and the village. And the resolution is just pledging the amount that was budgeted for this fiscal year of $35,000.
Okay, would you like to go ahead and discuss item number 4, which is the discussion on the biennial memorandum of understanding between the New Mexico Main Street Program, Village of Ruidoso, Midtown Association to dedicate collaborative resources, adopt local economic growth and revitalization tools, and establish economic development funding for operations and program implementation to restore economic vitality within the Main Street Economic Redevelopment District from July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2022. I don't know who wrote that, but they crammed a bunch in there. So you want to go ahead and elaborate on that one and how that ties to item number 3?
Yes, sir. And so, item number 3 is a section out of this MOU, that puts the New Mexico Main Street Program, RMA, and the village, together, so that we can implement our goals, for the Main Street District for July 1 through, June 30th of 2022. So we only have to renew the MOU every 2 years.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on item number 3 on the funding? Item number
No.
on number 4, is this something that we think we'd have on regular agenda to give an explanation for? Do you think it's clear cut enough to be put on consent?
I'd like it on regular so that way, Mac could talk about it some or
Okay.
some of them. Yeah.
Anyone else? I don't hear any objections to that, so we'll put that one on regular items, please, Irma. 3 and 4. Is that good, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, item number 5 is discussion on memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso and the County of Lincoln for the provision of regulation services of residential and commercial construction within certain specified areas of the County of Lincoln. And so, Samantha, this one is up to you again.
Yes, sir. This is the MOU between us and the county for us to continue to issue the building permits on their behalf. There have been no changes to this renewal, and
Okay,
provisionally the manager and the attorney have given their okay, so they're going to present it on your all's approval to the commission this month as well.
okay. Anyone have any questions, comments on this one?
Mayor, just, just based on the conversation that you have, it may be time to reconsider the ETZ. And, that's one of the things that I think, is probably closely tied to this. So, I don't know what the council's thoughts are on that, Mayor, but it seems like you brought it up a couple of times.
What Tim is referring to is I've been approached by folks in the county that have nice properties, and they're asking for help with the county and maybe resurrecting. And I know John Cornelius will have input on this on the ETZ zone. They're bringing up terms like equity thieves. People, and you can tell where it's at, out there headed toward Alto Lake where they're piling in stuff, more stuff. It's getting kind of junky looking, and we're getting comments from people that live out towards Alto, other places about it looks bad with their property values and what they're trying to do with their property. Does anybody have any comments? John, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that we should still have it. It does us more benefit than the county, but it's only a 1 mile radius. So we still wouldn't be able to get some of that stuff, but
Okay.
I think we ought to have it if we could.
Okay. What do you think?
Zach,
Zach just left the room. He had a court hearing to attend.
Ron, let's make a note to have Zach give us a briefing. There's 3 different processes for instigating the ETZ. And that way we have options, and what we'll do is we'll cover it under report. We won't address
Alrighty.
it in this MOU, but, we'll cover it under the report and let the council know what the options are to move forward on that.
Okay, could everybody hear that okay? Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so we'll look into that. I had a meeting today at 11 o'clock with the gentleman that owns Rainmaker. I know John knows him. He's just had a lot of questions, and I've been getting comments, probably like most of you have, about that stuff that Jason and them have hauled in there and what's going on at the other place and why we can't make them conform to something. So anyway, we'll get that information from Zach and come up with options, and then we'll present it back to the council. So the council will tell us what we need to do. Okay?
So Matt, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Under the prerequisites, 2B, well, it's actually A and B. That's the same language that we had problems with in the past, of where we failed to have a fully staffed inspection department that, of course, we notify CID, and if it's not filled within 60 days, then all inspections go to the state. Isn't that the same language that we had issues with a couple of years ago?
I thought we had corrected.
Well, the language prior that we were having a lot of issues with, I remember when I was on the other side, was that CID wanted the whole department to shut down. But now what we came to the compromise, last year was working with Martine, is that if that one discipline, like mechanical, was vacant for that period of time, then the mechanical permits would be reverted to the state and we would handle those permits for us.
All right.
Where was that at, Joe, again?
This is.
In,
we always have to
Breakfast
remember
2,
the speaker.
A and B.
Speaker always gives us problems.
Okay, so what if we've got that agreement, Samantha, why do we still have that language in here? It says it shall maintain a full service plan review and shall employ full-time plan review personnel, but I don't see where it says
So
at the end of 60 days.
Yes, and the state was even more strict. They had wanted, if you were missing one discipline out of it, then their language reads that you should close the entire inspection program down. But I remember after the back and forth, that was our agreement. And then remember CID had refused to sign off on it, but then we had moved forward because it was an agreement between the village and the county, not really CID. So that's what we both had agreed to.
Okay, well, where's
Mayor,
that
members,
agreement?
members of the council, we had a conference call, I'd say over a year ago, Zach and Debbie with CID, Bureau Chief and their attorney, and that was language that she was wanting to have placed in there. In the past, we didn't even send the agreement to them, to have it approved, just between us and the county. She's the one that said they needed to review it and also approve it. And last year, we just should put our language in there without, if we lose one inspector, we're still moving on with inspections. We'll work with the state. But we're not asking for their approval. We're just executing it and moving forward with the agreement.
Mayor, just a correction, that was 2 years ago, right, Ron? We're getting aged here.
Yeah. You said it was 2 years ago, but why do we have the language in here if we're not? So are you comfortable with the language that we have in this, Ron?
Mayor Crawford, the agreement that we executed last year, if it's the identical agreement, it worked fine. I didn't have any issues with that, and so we can always go back to this item here when he's done with his meeting with this call.
This has been working out well for both parties, I believe, because even if we are out an inspector, say they're on vacation for a week, we do ask the ID to step in and help us with those inspections as well. That say the electrical inspector is off on vacation. So this is kind of how we operate anyways.
The year that I was back in community development, this is same agreement we had in place. It didn't, and it wasn't, we didn't have any problems with it. Now, I don't know what the future holds, but I think if we need to strengthen our position on this, we can talk about that, but it has been working for us.
And I think that the expansion of the ETZ would be great because it appears that a lot of their permit numbers are down quite a bit. And so I would assume that there's a lot of illegal construction going on. So that would give us more oversight.
That was gonna be my question. If they're in the ETZ, do they have to abide by our zoning laws? And like.
If the ETZ was active.
If it was active, they would.
Okay, so it's not,
No, we don't have an ETZ right now.
okay.
We just have an agreement. Is that right, John? Because that ETZ went out, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was only a mile, and since the county doesn't have any zoning, there wasn't much there. But we wanted to be able to kind of protect the land that we might annex in the future. That line.
So if during the ETZ, then it would be under the jurisdiction of our codes.
It still is on building codes, but not our zoning.
But on zoning, okay.
You would identify exactly what code it would, and if it would be PUD or if it'd be what, you'd have to go. There's a whole process that you go through.
Okay.
John, it's Susan. Is Eagle Creek in is that ETZ?
No, that is zoned Village of Verdoso, Eagle Creek, where the ball fields are, and across the highway is incorporated.
Okay.
But the Eagle Creek Shell gas station is county.
No, we're talking Lower Eagle Creek. I see it on the map.
Yeah.
Lower Eagle Creek is county.
Okay.
I think that's what Susan was referring to.
Thanks, Rifle. I didn't explain myself good.
But part of it would be within the ETZ.
Mm-hmm.
And the Shell station out there would be within the ETZ, even though they're county.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the 3 mile boundary that we were talking about some years ago? I thought that was ETZ was 3 miles, but it's only a mile.
No, that's permitting.
Oh, that's permitting. Okay, I'm confused then. Okay, I see.
You're allowed to go up to a 4 mile radius. I think
On permitting?
You would, on zoning, but you identify that as you're going through the process of establishing the ETZ.
Okay. All right.
And I think that 3 mile also included the airport. I think that's why they stuck with that.
Okay.
Well, the airport's in the city limits, so we pick up a little extra territory there.
Right.
Okay.
So let me make a suggestion, Mayor, because I understand what Joe was saying, and that was my concern earlier. So thank you, Joe, for bringing that up. But if I remember the discussions that Samantha was saying to that common agreement, it was really just the discipline of that one inspector. Example given, we don't have an electrical inspector, so we turn that over to the state. But in the language of this MOU, at the bottom of page 2, that's what I'm looking at right now.
Mm-hmm.
It says at the end of the 60-day period, if Ruidoso does not fill the vacancy, and I wonder if we just add, the vacancy of the discipline required, mechanical, building, structure or electrical, then that permitting would just for that discipline would go to the state. Instead of it reading that we would shut down the whole system and not provide any of the other. That's just a suggestion that we really define what the vacancy is.
Yeah, well, I don't like the part about shut down the whole department, because if they did, more than likely, we'd never be able to put it back together if we lost all the inspectors.
I agree with you, John, and that's what I'm afraid. If we leave it like this, that may open the door for new commissioners coming in.
Ron, do you remember the discussion, that was in state statute and that was why they had to?
No, it's not. It was the attorney that wanted the language in there for CID. It's not in.
And it wasn't in state statute?
No, it was that lady. She wanted it.
Is she even there anymore?
Not sure.
I think that could come back and bite us later, even though CID is not reviewing this now.
Okay,
Yeah, those are administrative rules. It's not necessarily statute, it's part of CID.
so can we go ahead and get with Zach to draft that language, that, I'm not sure who suggested, I don't know if it was Rifle or whomever.
We can work that in, man.
Work that in, and then we'll bring it back, for our council meeting next week. Does that sound good to everyone?
That sounds good.
Okay, all right, so you'll take care of that, Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5, discussion on memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso and the County of Lincoln for the provision of regulation service. Did I just do that?
Yes, sir.
I don't know why I'm. Number 6.
Mayor, if I may, excuse me.
Yes,
Just for clarification, obviously that number 5 will be regular.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put that on regular. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Number 6, discussion on agreement with New Mexico Department of Transportation for supply of salt in exchange for snow and ice removal on New Mexico Highway 48 from Ski Run Road to US Highway 70. And we have that one is Adam.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mayor, Council. This is just the annual agreement with the DOT for them. They provide 100 tons or 1,000 tons of salt to plow Meacham and South to Ski Run Road.
Okay.
Is that enough in normal years?
I think we're going to have to buy some ourselves, for our independent streets. But yes, this last year I think we did 900 tons.
Okay. Anybody else?
So Mayor, this is Ron. This is a 2-year agreement, and this will be for the next 2 years. We worked with the NMDOT well during the snowstorm. And they actually brought us some additional just to help out, during the snowstorm. So.
Okay. All right. How about on consent?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
consent item, thank you. Item number 7, discussion on land lease agreement between Teresa Korn and the Village of Ruidoso for the radio station tower, location in Ruidoso Downs, New Mexico, in the amount of $650 per month from July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2022. And does everybody, Ron, you want to just brief everyone real quick? I think we all are aware of that one.
Yes, Mayor Crawford, members of the council, this agreement actually has been executed. She was here last Thursday and signed off on it. Mayor Crawford signed off on it. It's a 2-year agreement. It's for a 3-acre tract where the tower sits on. She did mention to me that she's planning on moving out of state, possibility of selling the property. I mentioned to her we would be, we'd be interested. We'll look into it. But this is where the power, this is in the Ruidoso Downs area, so.
So Ron, if we've executed this, then it needs to be changed to ratification.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I just signed it yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
We wanted to have it executed, by July 1st is what our intention was, so we can move forward on it.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or Questions on this one?
It's cut and dry, so.
Okay, on, consent, and we'll just change it to ratify. Ratification, okay,
Perfect, thank you.
thank you. Item number 8 is a T-Hanger lease agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, and Lawyers Real Estate Services, LLC for Charlie 13 T-Hanger. And Mr. Kalsabowski, this one's pretty cut and dry, but
Yes,
do you
Mr.
have
Mayor, it is.
anything to add to that?
It's just this, one of our standard T-hanger agreements. Mr. David Stevens from Tech Service LLC is the tenant that's moving into it.
Okay. Consent?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have that one on
Yeah.
consent also. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Item number 10 is discussion on change order, Number 9, discussion on grant agreement with the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration Local Government Division, Enhanced 911 Act Grant Program to fund public safety answering service, PSAP. And Chief, is this just boilerplate standard?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council members. This is just our annual agreement with DFA, so the money that goes off the E911 can get back into funding our 911 PSAP.
Okay. Consent? Yay?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
Consent, please, Ms. Devine. Number 10 is discussion on change orders number 1 and 2, IFB number 2020-002B with Cherokee Enterprises, Inc. for Alto 2 well H 1979-S7 improvements, requesting an extension 80 days to September 23rd, 2020, and increasing the contract amount by $7,416.67, excluding gross receipts tax. And this one is Mr. Boyd up.
Mayor and councilors, so we had the material delays caused by COVID-19 that extended the project 80 days. That also additionally included the complications that we had with the, there was a nationwide permit that we were intending for the Eagle Creek crossing that was vacated by a federal judge. And so we had to go through a more rigorous, long process with the contractor to get the permit. And that's the extension of days. And then we had 3 minor changes to the project that were memorializing with change order number 2. That includes additional excavation that was required around the wellhead to break apart a large chunk of concrete that was not known about, that was sealed around the well. We also had, we're reusing a significant amount of the pipe that was already in the area. We pressure tested and made sure that it was in good shape. And so we ran into issues where it was too shallowly buried in right next to Eagle Creek. And so we need to replace about a 20-foot section of it to get it down 4 feet below grade. And that will help us transition through the crossing in Eagle Creek. And then once there was a discharge pipe for the well and a riprap pad that would help disperse the water. On the design sheet, it looked okay, but in practice, it's not something that we thought was a good product. And so we are extending that riprap pad substantially longer to help protect the decant basin. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Oh, Eric, this is Gary Jackson. Could you explain to me a little bit about what it was that was vacated by the Army Corps of Engineers?
So there was a nationwide permit for linear crossings, and a federal judge vacated it, tied to all the oil pipelines, the like Canada, transcontinental oil pipelines. And so the Army Corps is no longer allowed to utilize that. And so we switched to a general discharge permit, which required a biological assessment and a little bit more thorough documentation in the notification.
And we were caught in backwashing something far larger.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments? I was just reading in here where they stated that they were delayed by COVID. I didn't see it. Did I just miss it? Eric?
So
the
there's,
items,
yeah, so in the letter from Cherokee Enterprises, they discussed the issues, and then we've got the letter from Western Precast Concrete addressing the issues with the COVID-19 complications. And that's on the change order number 1, the attachment.
Okay, maybe I just didn't see it yet. So the supplier did send that in, so we know it's a valid.
Correct, and we made sure to do that because on your request for having that information.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else? Do we want this one on consent or regular? Any suggestions?
I'll think regular.
Regular? Regular item? Okay, Ms. Devine?
Yes, I agree, regular.
Okay. Item number 11.
I think anything, I was gonna say, Mayor, I think anything with water improvement should always be on regular, just to boast again of the good work the village is doing on working on our water system.
Okay. A little attaboy that people understand, sure.
Exactly.
Okay, number 11, discussion on task order RFP number 2018-001P-24 with John Shoemaker and Associates, Inc. for underground storage and recovery, USR, pre-application permitting and pilot project in the amount not to exceed $247,421.03, that is, including gross receipts tax. And this one is Mr. Boyda, and he has a lovely explanation for this one.
Mayor and councilors, so this is the pre-application and pilot project that's associated with underground storage and recovery project. And so what this is where we would take water and inject it into certain formations in town that have ability to store that water. And so from previous work that we've done in some older water reuse studies, there's one formation, there's 2 good accessible locations of it. One is around Warrior Drive, the Bog Spring area, around High School Well, and then up to the elementary schools. The other formation or location that we can access it is on the Gavilan Canyon well field, the upper portion. So kind of think of the intersection of Hull and Gavilan Canyon, that area up to the kind of the Jehovah's Witness Hall. Those 2 areas are what we think would be a good spot to do these pilot projects. So these pilot projects is we would work with the Office of the State Engineer and NMED to develop a monitoring and sampling strategy based on previous applications that John Shoemaker and Associates have done for these types of projects, they're assuming that there's going to be design and monitoring of 2 monitoring wells. But for this project, we put in an additive alternate that includes a 3rd monitoring well in case if they do require it. So some of the questions that people have asked about this is our intent for this project is to, when we have adequate surface water flows from Eagle Creek, we'll artificially keep treatment plant 3's production higher than what's required, and then we'll utilize extra water out of the distribution system, so it will be treated to drinking water quality. We'll likely have to dechlorinate it, and then we'll inject it into the ground. And so we're looking at possibly about 200 acre feet that we could store in the ground, and that's going to help us better extend our usage of snowmelt water off of Eagle Creek, and should help us reduce our need for water right leases substantially. It's a little bit of a complex topic, and Roger Peary is available and willing to come to the regular meeting and give a presentation and talk a little bit more about the hydrogeologic side of it and kind of explain why these formations are good, viable options to conduct this study. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Eric, it's John. Yesterday you said that we are going to store treated water. Then that'll have to be retreated when we recover it?
So we would treat it to our drinking water standards, and then it would go into the transmission lines. We would pull it off of the transmission lines, dechlorinate it, inject it in the ground, and when we draw it back out, we would have to chlorinate it again. But the water wouldn't have to go through, like, it wouldn't have to be used at treatment plant 3. We would treat it as groundwater. And so we just do the disinfection.
And where would that be treated at?
You know, all of our, like the high school well, the Hollywood well, Cherokee well, they all have their chlorination system right there by the wells. So all that we would do is just in that wellhead area where we're drawing water back, we'd have a small building that would contain this disinfection system.
Okay, just like all the others.
Correct, yeah. And this facility might be a little bit bigger because there would be a potentially like a dechlorination system in the process, but it's likely that since we're doing drinking water quality injections, we can utilize the same well for injections as we do pumping. When you start getting into like wastewater reuse, oftentimes you have to have a distinct injection well and a withdrawal well. So we'll likely be able to save some money in that process too.
Eric.
Yes.
You know, I want to make it clear that it has to be demonstrated first.
Correct.
All those processes need to be demonstrated that they can work. And, you know, for some reason, if you end up with, you know, just like on that example, you end up doing an injection and then you end up finding out that there's, you know, a lot of salt in there. So when you come back out and you pull the water back out, then you have to have, if it's not meeting the total dissolved solids limits, then you'd have to do some type of other process. So conceptually, we can say that that's the goal, but we still have to demonstrate that all these type of things are going to work before we move forward.
Yes, and that's a great point, Tim. This whole project is demonstrating that this is a viable solution before we go into the capital investment of possibly drilling some new wells for this process.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make that clear because I don't want to come back and say, oh, by the way, you know, after we studied this more, then we found out that we, you know, have to go through this other process or whatnot. So all this is a study that's gonna be conducted. We're gonna have to be able to demonstrate that we can store it and recover it and that it's, the same as normal groundwater would be and whatnot, so.
Good point. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
But
Tim?
just the evaporative loss and then the ability to store it, the cost of storing underground in other areas has shown to be a great benefit to communities, so.
Yeah, that sounds
Eric, this is Jackson. I'm gonna plead ignorance on most of this, all of it actually, but why would that be beneficial beyond just putting in a new tank and saving water with that two new processes?
So, storage of this quantity of 200 acre feet, we'd probably be looking at $30 million storage tank solution. So this will be substantially cheaper.
Oh, John just told me how much water that is. Like 40 grindstone 3 times. And I'll make the comment if I can, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you were on council, I believe you were, and John, but I remember one councilor wanted to buy 100 10 million gallon tanks to store this water. And I think that was the first time I heard where Roger mentioned that the best storage tank is in the ground.
Yeah.
So I'm this is a really good experiment to see if it'll work. And like Tim, you said, this is all experimental and testing, because I do have concerns of it being there in Gabbling Canyon, especially up there by the Eagle Creek turnoff. For one thing, I always heard that water is harder in rock. Well, it is rock. But also it concerns me when we do find that aquifer or storage facility, how many wells around there will draw from that storage area as well. What comes to mind is Fawn Ridge. It might be beneficial for them that we have that there, but I'm all for this. I think it's a really good project to look into. Again, it'll help us store our share of water. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
And Mayor Crawford, councilors, I do want to reiterate that the wells that we do have in this area, although they are hard, they do meet the primary drinking water standards. But this process will likely improve the quality of water there because we're going to be taking the real nice surface water. Or theoretically would improve the quality there.
And I don't remember how long ago it's been, but, we looked at what it would take to enlarge Alto. That was part of all this discussion for the storage, and it was found that was pretty expensive and prohibitive and with evaporation and whatnot. So I just would be interested in seeing the results of this, that there's not a big hole at the bottom of this thing and it ends up in Roswell or wherever. So anyway, but I think that this one would be good to discuss, since not only for the amount, as previously mentioned by Solace, that anything with water we should discuss it. So we'll have this one on regular.
Okay, and Mayor, I will ask Roger to participate in Zoom, and he can give a better explanation of it.
Okay.
You did a good job, Eric.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to item number 12 is the discussion on task order RFP 2019-008P-03 with Yay and Associates Inc. for Grindstone Dam Drain Cleaning Project in the amount of $73,382.00 excluding gross receipts tax. And Randy, could you give us a little more explanation, because I've never seen those. I mean, you've explained them to me where they're at, but I don't know if all of us are as familiar with it as you are.
Okay, this is for task order number 3 for $73,382. and it's for Ye and Associates. Basically, what they're gonna do is they're gonna come out, and this is for the Grindstone Dam Drain Cleaning Project. Sauter Miller is gonna come out and do the survey of the drains in the floor and in the ceilings. And it could be up to 109 drains total. And what they plan on doing is preparing a topographic map showing all the high points and the low points. And then they'll put together a technical memorandum with grading recommendations for the drain gallery. And they'll provide guidance of a construction of a removable weir for the outlet in the gallery. It's going to be a temporary deal. And then what they'll do is they'll put together plans, specs, and estimates package for the construction phase. And it'll basically be including the grading of the gallery floor to promote the drainage. And this is probably the critical piece because we have standing water in the gallery right now up to 2.5 feet in depth. And it's imperative that they get proper drainage so we can identify all the drains. And it is up to probably 109 drains, but it's not totally clear because the drawings show an X amount of drains and the manual said it could be up to 109. So, and this is located right underneath the Alto Dam. Sits right behind the Grindstone Plant number 4. And what I did is I provided pictures of the entrance to the gallery, inside the gallery, and
Randy.
Yes, sir.
I think you said behind the Alto Dam, but you meant Grindstone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's Grindstone.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And basically, I provided the pictures of the drawings or of the pictures of the gallery. And then I provided a drawing that shows the drain gallery, and then one of a top shot so you can get a better understanding of where it's located.
Randy, do you have that loaded up where you can do a screen share?
No, I don't.
And he's loaded on it's if you've got your Novus up, he's got a bunch of pictures and a diagram that's real nice, Randy. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think I put enough information inside to kind of explain it a little bit better.
Yeah, but I think it was Councilor Salas asked that you provide that explanation so that everybody can see it. So maybe Mayor, what we can do is under reports, we can cover that. So we can give, not just the council, but the general public will be able to do that.
Okay.
So Jeff, if we can set that up so Randy can screen share and point out exactly what he's talking about as he's doing his presentation.
This will be for the
14th.
Yeah, next week.
Okay, I'll get with Randy. Sure.
Okay, Randy?
Yeah, sounds good.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
I'll stand for any questions if anybody has any.
Okay, I don't believe we have any, so we'll have that on regular items, and we'll also call you up to discuss it so that the public will get a better picture of what we're talking about doing.
Okay.
Okay, item number 13, discussion on task order RFP number 2020-004P-01 with Armstrong Consultants, Inc. for professional engineering services on project part 139 markings update at the Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, not to exceed $32,900, including gross receipts tax. And this one is, I don't know if Cody's going to do it or Ron's going to talk about it, but this was a little windfall.
Mayor, councilors, yes, sir. This task order with Armstrong Consultants is for the markings project through state aviation, which is part of a 100% funded grant, which is going this $32,000, and then the rest of the project is gonna be roughly about 200,000 to finish it. That will all be included in the grant. That we had an inspection back in February. To conclude that inspection, this was one of the projects that had to get done. We did extend it from May because of COVID-19, and this will complete the project to get us back in compliance.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I don't know. What do y'all want to put this one on regular items just because of how it's a little unique when we talk about found money, or you just want to include it in the consent?
Put it on regular.
Regular. Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, I don't see anything else. And will we have anything on closed session?
Mayor, in the next meeting, the special meeting that we have coming up, we have some closed session items.
So we may
that
have
are going to
some.
result in some potential motions that will be added to the regular meeting. In addition to that, I believe we have some public hearings, right? A request for public hearings.
Mayor Crawford, members of the governing body, Manager Dodge, yes, we do have some ratification items for the upcoming regular meeting, as well as Manager Dodge mentioned, we do have, let's see, at least 3 requests for public hearings, where the public hearings are being requested for the August 11th meeting. And then, do you want me to go through the ratification items or just?
Yeah, if you would,
Okay,
please.
sure. We are ratifying an agreement with the litter control and beautification grant agreement that we received, and that's in the amount of $45,280. That's for the Keep Ruidoso Beautiful. Another ratification item is also a grant agreement, and that's with the Aging and Long-Term Services Department in the amount of $35,000, and that's for the RSVP coordinator that pays for part of that salary for that person. Another ratification item is the agreement with the auditor for the annual auditing services. Another one is the renewal agreement with Hub International. They're the insurance brokers that provide the Village of Ruidoso employees with the insurance.
So that's for 1 year for Hub?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, for 1 year.
Last year.
It's the 3rd renewal. That is correct. And then of course the 3 requests for public hearing. There are 2 that are ordinance amendments. One of them having to do with the addressing system within the village, the naming and addressing system of roads and, signs, road mapping. So that would be added to the existing section that currently addresses that, but this will have a much more detailed process for that purpose. We do have another ordinance amendment, and that one is to establish the fees for the permitting of the vacant buildings within the Village of Ruidoso. So the governing body adopted the code to address the vacant buildings, so this will just add the fees, we'll tie the fees to that process.
What chapter is that?
That one,
Is it 38,
I
Irma?
believe it's 38, yes.
Is that the blighted?
Yes. Yes.
And I just bring that up because, under the other chapters, we've changed that section to allow the fee amendments to happen through resolution as opposed to ordinance. So, but 38, I don't believe we added that language, so we might want to visit that before we present it, Samantha, and make sure the language is consistent with the other ordinances.
Yes, I believe this particular ordinance amendment is adding the fees under Appendix A.
Irma, this is Ron. Was there not a ratification for the state aviation grant for $170,000? Should have been on there also.
I don't have anything submitted that shows me that, Ron.
That was in the system too. I'll double check on that, but that was, the mayor had already executed that grant agreement. That was for this, Part 139, the striping and marking projects.
It may be just a matter of going back into notice agenda and submitting it, Ron, if it's there.
I don't remember seeing that when I went through that. So I don't know if it, but anyway, I think on those two, we need to revisit the other one as well to make sure it's consistent with the way that we're handling ordinances
Okay.
and appendixes and whatnot.
Okay.
So right now it's just a request for public hearing. So
Yes,
let's
sir.
work out that issue.
And then the other request for public hearing is an appeal that has been filed by Mr. James, for the James Townsend tract, 1A, and that's for a commercial PUD site plan and concept approval. And that's to include the campground with the recreational activities.
So that would just be a notice to the council that you shouldn't be visiting with anybody associated with that because you will be that quasi judicial position on the appeal from Mr. Townsend. And so if you're approached, I just want you to know that that's what that's about. Are there any questions?
Mayor, in addition to, under reports, Councilor Salas has asked me to give an update or a comparison on water and wastewater, consumption and discharge. So we could see the trends of what's happening with the economy.
Okay.
So Eric, if you could, that chart that you provided for me, if you can update that and work with Isaac to get his numbers with the similar comparisons.
Okay.
That was good information that you provided. I actually like the trends and it made sense because what we actually see is residential consumption going up and commercial consumption went down, but then when you combine them, it trends pretty even.
Okay.
And, but Eric did a good job of demonstrating that and he can share that information under reports. Is there any other reports that you'd like us to, I believe, Ron, that the courts are supposed to be reporting to us every other, the office of the courts or administrative office of the courts on the construction project are supposed to report to us every other month. So I believe, Katrina, we had a meeting with her and Judge Bryant last week, but we should get whoever replaced the gentleman's name, Joe Scott, I believe. Is that his name, Ron? Something like that?
Yes, I believe that. I believe that's his name.
He's
Yes.
what replaced Mr. Campos. Get him to give an update. According to our agreement, they're supposed to do it every other month.
Okay. And from what I understand, they're behind. He's behind, sounds like.
Yeah, it seems like they, I don't want to, point fingers or anything, but we're getting on track and moving forward.
Okay.
But, is there anything else that the council, would like us to specifically report on? I know with the changes of how we're doing business out at Grindstone, it may be a good time to, halfway through the season to take a look at the numbers, maybe get Rodney to give us a report, if that's something you'd all be interested in.
Y'all interested in that? About Rodney giving a report on what's going on at Grindstone? If you haven't been out in the last little bit, they've got the new shade. I don't know what you call those. It's like a tent.
Shade structure.
Shade structure, really nice. And yesterday the lake was full, even with the clouds and the new lightning meter. If you haven't seen that, it's pretty awesome. It detects lightning on its own and goes off by itself and flashes lights. It's pretty loud. And so that was pretty interesting. anyway, so if you haven't seen that, Rodney could give us an update on that. I do know that this last week, I got quite a few phone calls from La Tierra, I think's the name of it, the Mexican food place out there by Brewers, Ski Run Road, close to there. Just the people parking everywhere. I know that we have no parking signs put out, and that I guess that's up to the state to police that at that point. Does anybody know?
On highway, it's a state, and then up on Lake Shore Drive or whatever.
That's a county.
It's county. So there's a couple of different jurisdictions that we're dealing with there.
So if you get calls on that, that's what's been going on. I've talked to the sheriff's department about Lake Shore there in Alto. I've talked to the store manager, or I think it was the manager at Brewers, that, that's their property. They need to make the phone calls on that. But we're still getting a lot of traffic there. Still pulling some monster fish out of both lakes. A lot of positive feedback on those things. We are getting, or I am, a lot of calls about masks, wearing them. The people seem to think that we need to adopt a strict Nazi-style approach to masks. I don't agree with it. We're still inviting people to wear the masks and showing them all the reasons why we should wear it. So that's kind of where I'm at. And if anybody wants to discuss that, I'll be happy to. I just think we need to continue to ask people to do it and not try to adopt a new resolution or executive order in that fashion. There was a lot of rumors around about the state shutting people down for not wearing masks, things like that, but I found no proof of that anywhere, not with Club Gas or anything. Venture Mountain, I never heard if they were shut down. They didn't act like it. So we did have state police in town on Saturday. We did have Department of Health, Environmental Department, and DPS that were making inspections. They inspected our business. They were in and out in 2 minutes. I mean, they looked, we had things going on. They told us it looked good and they left. So we're looking, hopefully, for the next couple of weeks that we can try to get to our normal, and we'll just see about any of these other things that come out. And if anybody has anything they want to discuss, just call me and we'll look into it, because there's something happening every day pretty much. But when are we cutting down on Ruidoso Safe?
Mayor, just as a result of what I've seen in the last week, my intent was to stop after the 4th of July. But with the change that happened last week, I think we ought to try to continue going for a couple more weeks at least, and then reassess as the state moves forward. AJ did ask me yesterday to put together a 10-minute presentation on what we've done for the annual conference, so they can highlight our efforts. So,
okay, did everybody hear that? Okay, because a lot of the calls that I get are not from people that are, agreeing with what we're doing or whatever. It's people that are concerned, have a lot of fear that all these folks are coming into the community from these infected areas or affected areas. I'll have to talk to Councilor Jackson about which one's the proper word there. But anyway, they're just concerned. They're very worried. So we talk to them, but one of the things that makes them feel better, and in all honesty, I think that's all we can do, is show our efforts, what we're trying to do to calm people's fears, to show them that we are being diligent. But when I explain to them the Ruidoso Safe program, I'm really amazed at how many of them never go downtown. So I've encouraged them to start listening to the 1490 radio station. We're still working on all the programming. And so if you have ideas, this is when we need to get them. I need to get with Susan's brother and start getting him on a regular show. But just to let people know what we're doing, because once I've explained all the efforts that we've made and what we've done, they'll simply state, well, that makes me feel a lot better, because they just go to the grocery store and they see it full. But I mean, I'm sure y'all are like me. When I go in the stores, most everyone's wearing a mask now. So we just need to keep encouraging that and remember that we still have other business going on in the village. I really talk about that a lot. And I get phone calls from different groups. I've gone to speak to several and, you know, we get off the political issues of who did what or who's trying to do what or the conspiracy of the week and talk about what we are doing in the day-to-day village. And I will let you know, I did see some bags of trash that looked like they had fallen off of and I'm just guessing because it's happened to me. You know, when I used to come up and visit, we'd stack the trash on the back of the car, meaning to drop it off at the dumpster on the road, and I'd forget, drive off, and then it'd end up somewhere in the street. And I, you know, I had a quick errand, and when I came back to get it, someone had already picked it up, and it was our Bear crew, our trash solid waste guys, doing an awesome job. You need to really be proud of those folks. That they were out picking up stuff like that. So we talk about the things that we're continually doing. I've got really good comments on the water. People, you know, people don't think about it like we did 8-9 years ago. But people are constantly commenting to me about you know, that we've taken great care of their water and they feel comfortable with the efforts that are being made right now. So anyway, that's all I got. We have another meeting at 10. We got through this one pretty quick. And also I've been notified that TDS is down, spotty. So the next Zoom meeting is going to be on another.
No, it'll be, that link is good. TDS is spotty up and down throughout town.
Oh, it's not a different link?
No, that link is good still.
Okay, so the link for the 10 o'clock meeting is still good, but TDS is spotty and Jeffrey's been checking on it to make sure. So we hope everybody's available to join us then.
You can always call in, use the Zoom app on your telephone, and use your mobile data if you have to. That is an alternative. Zoom has an app for Apple and Android.
Okay, did everybody get that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so with all of that, there's no further business. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you.